to a project today that I've been wanting to do for a couple of years now. The time is right because it's dry. We've had a historically dry summer here in upstate New York, and now I can do some trenching and digging and not make a complete mess. So my plan for today is to cut in a swale from there 50 or 60 yards over that way towards the woods, because I know I have a good outlet for the water. This is always a marshy, kind of swampy area. The source of the water is a 12-inch culvert that collects water from the other side of my driveway and sends it on this side of the driveway. This is wet most of the year. This is the plan for how I'm going to do it. First, I'm going to get out my rotary laser and measure the ditch bottom or culvert bottom over there. I'm going to measure my home run or outlet in the woods. I'm going to take the difference in those measurements and divide it by the distance that I'm traveling to get myself a slope. I'm going to plug that slope into my rotary laser, set the angle, put a receiver on the excavator arm, and just dig away. And that's the plan. So stay tuned, let's do it. All right, we are going from that culvert and drain tile. That's the low spot in the system. But what happens is, and it's tough to tell from this camera, is it gets a little higher in this area, and then over there another 20 feet it gets low again. So there's a couple little bowl areas here where water is collected. So my plan is to take the lowest spot, which happens to be over at the culvert, and then start back there at the lowest spot, go down from there. So where I think I'm safe is if I get into the woods here. I found a little area that got eroded away by water. Right there. See that little indentation? It meanders. It goes that way, meanders back and forth. And see how it's already worn into the ground, maybe 8-10 inches deep. So if I get to this spot, I think I'm safe because I followed this and actually cleaned up my outlet for this downstream. I know where I'm starting. I set up my rotary laser in a spot where I could see both my start point and my end point. You can see the lasers right here, and in the distance you can see the culvert, maybe 60 yards. And then behind me you can see where the ditch bottom is of area that I'm emptying into. So the first step is lasers on. I got this area cleared out. What I'm going to do before I even start anything is come in here and push a lot of this stuff back. You just want as flat and kind of clean of an area as possible when you start digging. So rotary laser set up with no slope. It's zeroed out, so it's giving me a flat line. I'm going to place the stick at the bottom of the ditch. Now I want to measure ditch bottom relative to the pipe outlet bottom. So move this up and down until it sees the laser. The slow beats means I'm low. Fast beats means I'm high. I want more of a steady beat, or the area where it transitions from fast to slow. Right there. You always want to keep this stick pumped. You don't want it leaning. Right there. That's my spot. Right now, the laser is 5 foot, half of an inch above ditch bottom there. So now we're going to take the stick over to the pipe and measure what that is, see what the difference is. And at the same time, I'm going to pace this off to see how many feet it is from there to here. This is my own backyard, so I'm just going to pace it off. It's not a huge deal if I'm a little off. So I pace it off. My paces are about 3 feet each. I paced it 79 paces from there to here. Now the really important thing when you measure any of this off, especially if you're going to get a slope, don't measure a straight line unless that's where your ditch is going. You want to pace off exactly where your ditch is going. If it's going to meander, go this way and then that way, which this one is, I'm actually following a low spot. My ditch is going that way. It's going to dogleg right and then left again. I want to actually follow my ditch to get the real run. What you're doing is you're calculating the rise over the run or the drop over the run. And you're going to get a different run if you go straight line versus if you follow the path of the actual ditch itself. So over there, we measured, that ditch was at 5 foot, half of an inch above the laser. Now all we're doing is getting a delta between over there and here. So I'm going to drop this for higher. Fast beats means we're high, slow beats means we're low. Remember, keep this stick plumb right there. Okay. So it went from 5 foot, half of an inch to 3 foot and a half. So do the math. It's 5 inches, half, 6 inches. 1 foot plus 6 inches, 18 inches. So there's an 18-inch drop from here to there. 80 times 3 is 240. All right, so we're going to take 18 inches, which is our rise, which is our drop, same thing. 18 divided by 12 to get everything in the feet. That's 1.5 feet. Divide 1.5 by 240. Multiply times 100. And that's a 0.625%. We're going to set up my laser for 0.625% slope to go from here to there. I'm going to start digging on that side. So I'm going to start down there and set it up and come back this way at an incline. Now, just to be safe, what you don't want to have happen is you do all this digging and you get over here and you're higher than your outlet was. Well, then you have a little bit of an issue. So what we're going to do is change our measurements a little bit. Instead of saying there's an 18-inch drop from here to there, I'm going to play it safe and say there is a 14-inch. Now give me a 4-inch to make sure that this actually empties down into my ditch. So instead of 18 inches, let's do the math again. 18 minus 4 is 14 inches, divided by 12 is 1.16 feet. Divide that by 240 times 100 is 0.486. So I'm going to round this to 0.5. A 0.5% slope from there to here goes. Let's do it. The more you can prepare, the more you can flatten things out, clear things out of your way, measurements, planning, the better it's going to go. I'm not an expert at this, but a few that I've learned from and made mistakes on are the ones I didn't prepare as much for. So we've got our measurements, we've got our distance, we've got our slope. Now we've got the path cleared. I've got my path kind of marked in my mind where I'm going. You can see I've got the mini turned around so that I'm digging on the side opposite the blade. That way the blade's out of my way, I can see better, I'm not hitting the blade. So how I've got this set up is really important. This is my ending spot that I'm at right now. So my teeth are touching the spot that I'm starting at. I have my bucket curled all the way out, the arm is plumb. So the important thing about all these setups is because I'm putting my laser, and I have to have all these things in the same position every time in order to get the same reading. So every time I want to use this to see where I am as far as height, I've got to have my bucket pulled out, I have to have my arm plumb. The other important thing is to get the lasers. Once you get that where it needs to be, then you set up the rotary. You want to set up the rotary height so that, in my case, I am shooting for this zone here. So that's how I attach. This is magnetic. So it sticks right to this is the zone that I want to mount my receiver. So I've set up the rotary so that it's somewhere in this range. So the rotary can be set up, you know, a foot above the ground, 6 feet up, wherever it is. This one, I've got it adjusted so that it's around this area. I just eyeball it. So the next thing I'm doing is turning on the rotary. This is a Topcon. It can slope both ways, X and Y. I've got it set up on my Y. It'll probably be a different video how we set this laser up, but just bear with me for this time. It will be a video on itself on how to set it up. So I'm going to plug in my slope, and in this case, it's going to be a positive 0.5% slope, not degree, percent. So now the rotary is calibrating. It's pitching the laser up so that the Y is pitched in the positive, because I'm going uphill, and it's at 0.5, so it's adjusting. Once it starts spinning again, then it's ready to go. And once it's spinning, then I'm going to move this to catch the laser, and that'll put me on my glide slope. Go high. I've got this set up for plus or minus ¼ inch. So that's what I'm listening for. Solid beat. That means I'm on the slope I need to be on. The other thing I forgot to mention is, since I mount this on the left side of the arm, in order for that to see my rotary, I keep my rotary off to the side. So my rotary is off to the side, and it is parallel to my ditch, which I didn't do. So I line up the crosshairs on the rotary so it's parallel to my ditch. It's offset this way. Now it's recalibrating. The other thing I have the rotary set up for is there's a couple different speeds that you can spin it at. I've got it set at 6 versus 3, so it spins faster. Okay, there it is. Here we go. you need the laser parallel to your ditch at all times. If you're doing all these turns, you just can't leave the laser in one spot. At every turn, I move the laser. So what I do is I dig along, and right before I'm about to turn, I set my bucket up, find the spot that hits the laser. And as you saw, it was green, it was beeping. It was right on grade. And then I go and get the rotary, move it to my new spot, set it up parallel to my new ditch, the new angle of the ditch, get the height so it's close to where the receiver is, start it up again, and now the next thing I need to do is move the receiver. There we go. Now I'm good for another 30 feet. got it roughed in. And remember the 4 inches that I added as a safety on the beginning when I was doing my calculations to keep the ditch 4 inches below where the culvert is? Well, that came in handy because sometimes when you move the rotary quite a bit, you can lose an inch or two here or there, and I lost a few inches. So anyway, I've got a nice slope though from bottom of pipe out 3 or 4 feet to get the water away. I've got to clean up around here. I might add a little stone into this. 200 and, what did I say, 240 feet later. There's the little start of the swale. Got a little hump there, a little bump. I'm going to tune it up with a shovel next. All right, well, there you have it. Ended up being around 250 feet, 18 inches of total fall from here to there. There's the swale. Tuned up. Now I just need to grade all around it and plant some grass seed. So here's the 12-inch and the 4-inch that feed this. Hopefully this gets rid of this constant water sogginess that I've had back here for years. As you can tell, it's kind of a low spot. The water really had nowhere to go. So now it does. No excuses, water. Fall season is here, so I wanted to get this in before the leaves started falling and made it even harder to move stuff around and see the dirt, move the dirt. Oh, there's some pretty pink leaves. Anyway, this is where it ends and where the next one begins. So this is just the natural. I will update everybody as the first rainfall comes, which might be tomorrow. It's always kind of fun to do these projects and see what happens when it rains, if it really does what you want it to do, or are there other variables. So that's it. Stay tuned.